Are you aware that there are changes to the tax laws effective this year, right now? Changes in laws that can totally change how things work with divorce and custody and child support type cases, like the type of work that we do. I'm Brent Boyer. I practice law here in Metro Detroit area in Michigan. And these tax laws, titled under what was called the Big Beautiful Bill, a whole package of changing things that take effect immediately as of 2025, right now, right on through 2028. Could even go beyond, but this tax bill, it's something that could affect a lot of people, whether you're married, separated, divorced, or paying child support. Brand new tax legislation. It's been approved, takes effect January of this year, but I feel like no one's talking about it at this point. And I'm not a tax professional, but a lot of what's in this bill directly impacts divorce and family law, the kind of work I do every day with my clients. So let's get into what some of these parts of the tax bill are. So first of all, why would you care about this? Why does this matter to you? Well, in divorce and child support cases, which we deal with every day, we deal with income, what someone really earns, what they pay taxes on, not what they're telling you they might make or whatever that all could look like. The new laws here change how that income is taxed or not taxed, which means it changes how much money people actually have to live on. That can affect everything. It can affect how child support is calculated. It affects what net income looks like, and even how negotiations can play out in court. So let's break it down kind of piece by piece here. So first of all, there's a new legislation that there's going to be no tax on tips. So if you've got a child support case with someone that works in an industry where they get tips, restaurants, bars, even other places, even haircuts and those sorts of service industries, and getting your nails done, whatever it is. If you have a court case with someone who works in those type of industries, they don't have to pay taxes on the first $25,000 in those tips. So within the context of a divorce child support case, so if your spouse, ex-wife works in one of those jobs, their take-home pay just went up. They now make more money because their taxable income has gone down. So the first $25,000 of those tips is not taxed. So when we calculate child support or even alimony, spousal support, they're earning more than what the numbers show. And that's something as we attorneys, we need to account for, we need to be aware of. If you're the one earning the tips, it's great news for you personally, but it's going to change how your income gets analyzed in court. Next major change, there's no tax on overtime up to $12,500 per year. So it's not a lot of money, but up to $12,500, it's something. That's probably, if someone's working overtime, they're probably making at least that amount in overtime. So it covers a lot of people that work a job where overtime is available. So if you're in a line of work that includes regular overtime, construction, law enforcement, healthcare, manufacturing, it could be all kinds of things, that part is now tax-free. So let's think about what that really means. To take home $12,500 after taxes, you might have to earn closer to $20,000 in overtime before this new bill, before the tax change. Now that $12,500 is yours to keep. So if you made $80,000 and then you make another $12,500 in overtime, the $12,500 isn't taxed. You make more than that in overtime, then it gets back to normal tax rates. But again, for divorce cases, it complicates things. The child support and spousal support software we use depends on taxable income numbers. So in other words, we put in gross income, we put in your before tax income into these software, into these programs to calculate child support and alimony. We put in that number, and then it tells us your net income. So we really need to be aware of these kind of things going forward, and we need to adjust these calculations for the untaxed income, meaning the real financial picture looks different than what the tax return might show. So we need to know about that. Something to be aware of when you're negotiating something in court or mediation, and part of your divorce case, whatever type of case you're dealing with that has child support or alimony, could be a custody case, child support case. So something to be aware of. In this next section is this $1,000 account set up for newborn babies. So if there's a baby born between 2025 and 2028, so if you have a baby, the child must have a social security number, so the parents or guardians need to register the child right away. The government will then place $1,000 in an account for that newborn baby. So there's extra money here. So the details are still being worked out, how it's going to be invested, when it can be accessed, who manages it. But for now, it's clear that this will be real money set aside for the child's benefit. This is free money from the government, $1,000 for your baby. In family law cases, it could come up in different ways. It can be an asset held for the child. It could be a benefit available to the parent who has primary custody, financial resource considered during support or custody decisions. So it's not a life-changing amount, but it's another wrinkle attorneys need to factor in when we're looking at these custody and divorce cases and there's a newborn baby, which, unfortunately it happens. It can be, it can be sad that someone's splitting up when they have a brand new baby, but it definitely can happen. So this next section that can affect our clients, divorce, family law clients, is the no tax on car loans. So there's a new change under the tax laws that they're not going to tax car loan interest. So if you have a car payment, the interest portion will now be deductible or excluded from taxable income. So in divorce cases, it matters because a lot of the clients that we have in our divorce cases, at least one of them has a car loan. So this then helps their taxes, reduces the tax impact of the interest payment. It can affect how we calculate reasonable needs of somebody when we're looking at something like spousal support. What do they need to pay their bills? Well, if they have a car payment, the interest on that car loan is no longer taxable. So that can definitely affect things as well. There's some new deductions for seniors, which is a good news if your case involves older people. So if we're dealing with some of our more senior clients, these things can affect them. And then keep in mind, a lot of the 2017, 2018 tax legislation remains in place. The standard deduction, which most people use, is still in effect, still stays in place. Every part of this new so-called Big Beautiful Bill is currently scheduled to last only through 2028. So it may not go beyond that, be a different president and could be somebody else at that point, different people in Congress, but at this point, the bill goes through 2028. So even if they refer to it as being permanent, let's face it, these laws are always subject to change. How this impacts your divorce strategy. So what does all this mean when it comes to a divorce or child support case? Well, first of all, child support calculations will shift, right? So if one parent has tips, overtime, that'll change what their real income is, not just the taxable income, but the money that they actually are able to keep, what they take home. So that can then affect how the child support gets calculated. Number two on this, negotiations can be more complex because of this. Attorneys will need to understand these exemptions and argue what's fair. If one side's income looks smaller because it's not taxed, we have to take a better look at it and see what's really going on, with their income. Spousal support can also be affected by these new tax laws. Untaxed income can increase someone's spending power. So if you're the one paying spousal support and we're trying to calculate how much you should pay, and the person receiving this money is working in one of these jobs that have had a tax effect change, like overtime not being taxed or tips not being taxed, that could affect how much it looks like you're supposed to be paying in spousal support and how much we're going to use for that. Number four, there's court software updates then. So Michigan's support calculation software will likely have new updates to reflect these new changes in the law, and it'll be up to us as the attorneys to make sure that those rights are protected and that things are taken care of and that we're calculating things correctly. Number five, with all of this, tax planning becomes part of your divorce strategy. I'm not a tax attorney, but we work closely with tax professionals all the time. We always advise our clients to get professional help when it comes to taxes. If they've never had a CPA or someone help them prepare a tax return, getting divorced is usually a good time to do that. You want to make sure you understand everything and that you're not cheating yourself and that things are being calculated correctly. So collaborating with tax professionals will be even more essential now under these new laws, and making sure we get accurate child support numbers and accurate spousal support numbers and that things are being dealt with correctly within somebody's divorce case. So, kind of a summary here to recap: tips up to $25,000 won't be taxed. Overtime up to $12,500 in a year will not be taxed. There's $1,000 account deposit money from the government going to you if there's a baby born 2025 to 2028. So there can be an issue of who's going to be the custodian of that account if the parties are divorced. And also worth keeping in mind, car loan interest is no longer taxed. It could be a little thing, but it's a household bills type of thing, something that could affect possibly how you're calculating spousal support. And then just keep in mind deductions and standard sort of exemptions and deductions from 2018 will remain in place under the new law. So if you're going through a divorce, paying child support, dealing with child support, spousal support, all of this changes the financial landscape going forward of how things are going to be calculated and what you need to be aware of. You could be making more money than it looks like on paper, or maybe your ex-wife or mother of your children is making more money than it looks like on paper. So that's definitely worth something to be aware of. You know, if you're facing divorce or already paying child support, make sure you get professional advice before these changes take effect. Talk with a divorce attorney who understands how the tax law interacts with family law. In 2025, everything about income has changed a bit here. So you want to keep that in mind as you're going forward and making decisions about things. And you know, if you're looking for what to do next, check out our next video, Managing Child Support and Severance. It'll be here on your screen. Thanks.